Clemente.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Baydun.
Here.
Chair Kinlock.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Item B, Chair's remarks.
My remarks is welcome everyone to this budget hearing as we begin the process of deliberating over the county's budget for the next fiscal year. I would like to say that at today's meeting, what we will do, we will have a general overview in the budget presentation from management and budget, the CFO, and I do not have to repeat that, do I? I would like to just welcome everyone to the start of the budget hearings for the next fiscal year. At today's meeting, we will receive the budget presentation from the CFO and his team, a general overview of the budget. As we have done in the past, today we will basically be receiving this information. To the commissioners, I will ask if you would one, we will not have questions today, but as we move through the budget hearings, if you could get your questions to Terrence ahead of time so that we actually have some answers, by the time we get to the respective hearings and the departments that's associated with those dates, that would be very appreciative. So as we did last year, which was my the past couple of years. So today will just be the overall presentations, and then questions will come later. As we are having meetings in the community, I also want to ask the commissioners to follow up with myself and Terrence on confirming importantly, the technology associated with being able to conduct our meetings in those communities, Zoom, YouTube, technology. So it's important, please, before the end of the day, to confirm the availability of all the necessary infrastructure, so we will, the meetings will go on without an issue. And so those are my remarks. Terrence, is there anything else I should be mentioning? That was it. Okay. Okay. So the next item on the agenda.
Item C, approval of the minutes from the July 11, 2023 meeting.
So moved. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, this item stands approved. Next item on the agenda.
I'm sorry, can you use your tablets to vote, please?
Pardon me?
Can we use the tablets for voting?
Oh, yes. Okay. We'll use the tablets. Okay. So please vote on the tablet. Okay. I think I gotta use this.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And next item on the agenda.
Item D, unfinished business. There is none listed. Moving to item E1, requesting permission approval of budget adjustment 2023 35-152, reallocating expenditures in the general fund.
Are there any questions as this relates to this item? Any questions associated with this item? Next item, please.
Item 2, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2023 35-233, reallocating expenditures in the general fund.
Any questions associated with this item? Any questions associated with this item? Next item, please.
Item 3, requesting commission approval of budget adjustment 2023 35-242, certifying revenue in the county health fund.
Any questions? Any questions associated with this item? Next item.
Item 4, requesting commission approval of a retroactive amendment number 2 to a professional services contract with Gladys Partners LLC, DBA Volti Investments LLC.
From the administration, who will address this item?
Through the chair, Aaron Wagner, Chief Administrative Officer. I'll begin, and then the Chief Financial Officer, the Chief Deputy Financial Officer, and PHR may be able to speak on the various components that touch their departments.
Okay. Continue.
So back in December of 2022, our Chief Financial Officer at the time, Huey Newsom, had resigned. Tony Saunders came in, or through Gladys Partners, Tony Saunders had been contracted to come in to help us maintain consistency through MMB at the loss of our CFO. In addition, was also helping PHR, and the administration to identify the new CFO as well as the Chief Deputy Financial Officer. The term began on December 6th, 2022, and was to run through the fiscal year ending on 9/30/2023. The initial funding amount was for $100,000. In February, on February 10th, 2023, there was a scope change to recognize that we were now going to be onboarding a chief financial officer and a deputy chief financial officer, Mr. Wallace and Mr. Whittigan, and Tony's scope or the contract for Gladys Partners had changed at that point to recognize that we're going from a interim CFO role to a transition role in addition to the other supporting services through MMB. At that time, the term remained 12/6/2022 through September 30th, 2023. The funding for the contract remained unchanged at $100,000. And we then pivoted into the Second Amendment, which would add additional time and extend the contract out to May 5th, 2024, also adding additional funding of $325,000. And lastly, pivoting the scope to include consulting services to help with collective bargaining agreement and CBAs. This contract also, as stated, contemplated retroactive payments for the months of March, April, May, for the invoices that we've received that have been submitted to commission staff. We anticipate also additional invoices for the month of June and July for services that have been rendered. The reason that Mr. Saunders and his firm were selected, one was because as the former CFO and chief restructuring officer of the county, he was uniquely positioned to serve in the capacity where there was not onboarding required for him to learn the workings of the county. There had been previous contracts where he had been brought back when we were without a CFO back when Henry Dakowitz was prior to Henry Dakowitz coming in as the CFO. So there was a precedent set in addition to the fact that he was able to pick up the reins and continue to move forward progress for management and budget. The contract did exhaust funds with the earlier this year, and so that is one of the reasons that we were asking for additional funding of this. And again, it's extending the term of the base contract another. It'll take it up from a 10-month engagement to a 17-month engagement, essentially.
Okay, so question I have for you, you mentioned that the contract had exhausted the funding earlier this year. Why did it take so long to reach the commission? And I'm just saying, just the whole retro part of it.
Yeah, so the retroactivity is solely it took a while to pull together a finite scope for these services. Due to staffing issues, on the administration side, it took longer than necessary for us to put the contract into the system. Once we were able to get all of the background paperwork, we submitted it to commission as quickly as we could, but that the the blame or the error as far as the retroactivity is solely on our shoulders.
Okay, the key thing for me, and the question I have is this commission has made it clear. We've had these tit for tat conversations in the past about retroactive contracts. And you knew the services were still being provided, and you knew the funds were going to be anticipated to run out. It is important, and it's heightened the importance of why you have to look and you have to project a little bit better, so we don't have to get to the point of having to have these consistent retroactive contracts. So what you basically are stating is that you have determined that this contract, because of the services and the skill sets associated with this contract, that is essential to the department's operations?
That is correct. Actually, the county's operations, because this touches every aspect of the county with the CBA negotiations. In addition to, I'd like to also add that the funding for this contract, or at least, the dollar amounts as provided to commission staff, a range for a typical financial services contract would be for a managing partner, such as Tony's position in this instance, would be between $310 and $490 per hour. And so, based on the calculations, not only are we well within range of that, but we are also in the lower end of that range. And these are citing contracts that the county has through Pierce Monroe and Associates, Guidehouse, Plant Moran, and Remand Services.
For me, it was very important to have that information, and I did have conversation with our fiscal advisor in regards to that, to just make sure how it fell within that range. And so that component was answered and was part of one of the questions. And I'm now going to ask commissioners if you have any questions. Are there any questions? Okay, Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to ask our staff, the questions that appeared as some of the questions had not been answered satisfactorily when I went through it. Are we in a position right now? Are you in a position where our staff person?
Can you talk into the microphone, because we couldn't hear you? Yeah.
I said I was looking for our staff person to determine, I'd like to determine whether or not those questions have been answered satisfactorily.
Staff, I guess, Mr. Adams and Ms. Johnson. Which questions? Because there were, which area?
Whoever was the one that did the analysis for this item, was there only one, or was?
Yeah, this was.
I think it was fiscal. It would be.
So any areas that did not have responses, because there were some areas, part of the reports that had no response. So have any additional information come in since these reports were generated?
So through the chair, with regards to the analysis from Commission Council, we did get some responses back with regards to specifically some language in the scope of services that is somewhat broad and generic, and we were trying to narrow down exactly what scope of services we're looking for. I would argue that would state that, there's a scope of services that says other reasonable duties as required by the county. We were looking for more defined duties to ensure and understand exactly what you would be approving. I would say that has not been answered satisfactorily because it has not been changed. It's my understanding that the department believes that that is transparent and appropriate. And I would read the response to you, but I won't, because I don't want to cause any issues. But the response didn't clearly address the concern, and the concern is that you should know exactly what you're approving. And when you have something that broad, it could be services, for example, that go against something this body is specifically working on. And there have been instances in the past where things have happened. So we were just seeking clarification and more defined scope, and that was not provided for.
Let
that
me ask,
particular
is there
area.
anyone here who can make an agreement as relates to a modification to this agreement? Anyone here who can agree to a modification? Anyone here?
A
Aaron, are you able
modification
to taking that part out? Just that little language there. Yep,
That's it. Other services as needed.
correct.
Is that the request? Yeah, I'd be that would be fine to remove that language.
Yes, and the department did provide some more specific scope that may be able to be substituted for that generic language, Aaron.
Can you all work
Mm-hmm.
that out
Okay.
between you and Aaron as far as where those additional services that would be included in that? Okay, thank you.
Additional question real quick. The Gladys Partners, who are the partners in Gladys Partners?
Aaron, are you or anyone else able to answer that question?
Gladys Partners is the name of the organization. And as provided in this response, Tony Saunders is the sole proprietor of Gladys Partners LLC.
And when was the group founded?
Through the chair, Commissioner Anderson, I'll have to go back and get a specific date. I don't know if I do have that in front of me right now.
One of the responses had, when it was incorporated, I think a DBA, I think it was in there, but okay, if we, can you please get that back to,
That's before.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's all I have
Hold on.
right now.
Okay, it was established in 2016.
Okay.
Yeah, 2016. Are there any additional questions? Oh, yes, Commissioner Clemente.
Actually, just a comment and then maybe one question. It's been stated that and taken responsibility about the retroactivity, which is, we need to know about this ahead of time. Seems like it was a long time, but my question is there any intention to extend the contract past May of 2024? I don't know if you know that or not, but is there a possibility?
Through the chair, that was one of the questions that did come up from commission staff. And at this time, no, there is not an intention to extend beyond 2024. We believe that we'll have the CBA work negotiations wrapped up by then.
So the historic knowledge that Mr. Saunders brings, helping the administration and the CFO and the CEO will really help the process, and then we'll be ready to go. And we won't be extending this most likely.
That is correct. And it, Mr. Saunders' involvement in the negotiations that are currently ongoing has been critical in being able to bring, for example, many of the changes that were approved by commission and in the last full board were items that Gladys Partners had helped negotiate.
I appreciate that. Of course, we're all looking to make sure that the county and everyone is doing the very best. And so thank you.
Commissioner Baker McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we brought Mr. Saunders in originally to address some other management and budget critical items, I guess. And at this point, I'm not sure about the flow chart or where we stand as far as missing critical players in the management and budget area. Are we or will we be fully staffed to make sure that we don't have to extend the contract or bring in additional contractors to address certain shortfalls?
Well, Aaron, or let me ask if Mr. Wallace or anyone who Whittigan, who's able to answer that question. How is it? Can you just tell us where the staffing shortages are within the executive ranks within management and budget? And what's the anticipation on filling those holes or vacancies?
So the foremost important, as you know, is our budget director. We just brought on a deputy budget director, but he had 1 week.
Can you state your name and title for the record,
My
please?
apologies, Robert Whittigan, Chief Deputy Financial Officer for Wayne County.
Thank you.
So for my sleep schedule, that one's very important. Getting a budget director on board. But overall, you know, so Tony, as you mentioned, you know, was instrumental in finding you a CFO and Chief Deputy CFO. But now there are obvious needs with helping, you know, guide us through the process. We're new to the budget process, right? Here's what the commission's going to want. Here's what the CEO is going to need. So that's the biggest thing would be budget director.
Okay, and so at what point do you think we will be fully staffed and not have to contract out again for these services?
I know it's vague, but definitely as soon as possible. And that's our, you know, now that you have the budget and we'll present it today, our top priority is to evaluate and ensure that all these jobs are posted, because under the budget director, you have multiple budget analysts that need to be filled. And so that's the top priority for MMB beyond the budget, obviously.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, are there any additional questions? At this point, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I will make a motion to move items 1 through 5, 1 through 4 to full board for consideration.
okay, no, so item 5, you said 1 through 4, you said? Okay, 1 through 4. Okay, so motion has been, is there support? Okay, so my thing went up. Okay, so it's been moved by Commissioner Baydun, supported by Commissioner Scott. Please vote on your tablet. Can you mark the chair's yes?
For items 1 through 4, we have a motion by Commissioner Baydun, support by Commissioner Scott, and we have Commissioner Anderson as a no vote.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Oh, that was just for number 4, sorry.
Excuse me, the vote is supported by Commissioner Baydun, supported by Commissioner Scott, and we have Commissioner Anderson as a no vote on item number 4.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, next item.
Next item, item number 5, requesting commission approval of the comprehensive executive budget appropriation ordinance for fiscal year 2023-2024 and the projected budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
Yes, Mr. Whittigan and Mr. Wallace and Mr. Whittigan, if you would please approach the and state your name and title for the record.
Good afternoon, John Wallace, CFO, Wayne County.
Good afternoon, Rob Whittigan, Chief Deputy Financial Officer, Wayne County.
Good afternoon. Yes. Okay, so at this time, we will now commence our public hearing. The chair will entertain a motion to go to convene and to start our public hearing. A motion is in order. Is there support? Roll call?
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Baker McCormick,
Yes.
Commissioner Clemente, Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Baydoun.
Yes.
Chair Kinlock,
Yes,
motion carries. We're now open for public hearing.
thank you. So at this time, I would like you to, start, yes. The public. Okay, at this time, you have been presented or I would like to ask, is there anyone who would like to address this committee as it relates to the proposed budget? Is there anyone from the public who is interested in addressing this committee as it relates to the budget for the next fiscal year? Okay, there's no one here at this time who wants to speak, but keep in mind, we will continue to have budget hearings as we have indicated on our schedule. And so now you may begin your presentation.
Well, thank you.
Yes, say that again.
Hey, Terrence, by chance is the PowerPoint
PowerPoint
available for? If not, I think you have hard copies.
I think we have hard copies. Yeah.
One moment, I'm pulling it up now.
Okay. I'll get started.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Bell, Chair Committee, Chair Kinlock, as well as this honorable body of commissioners. My name is John Wallace. I'm the CFO of Wayne County. It's a pleasure to be here today to present to you this administration's ninth balanced budget. Along with me today is Robert Whittigan, Chief Deputy CFO, and we have various staff here as well. I want to first thank the commission fiscal staff, MMB staff, executive staff, department and elected offices for assisting in us being able to provide this budget here today and get here and bring it forward. Particularly, I want to thank Terrence and Mary and others for their help, guidance, and insight for allowing us to get here. I'm going to present like 5 key initiatives and highlights. Then I'm going to try to turn it over to Robert to kind of go through more detail and an overview of the budget. But first, I kind of want to talk about where we're at today. This administration has produced strong record of producing surpluses every year since 2015. In fact, we've added 44.1 million from fiscal 22 operations, expected to drop 1 million in the fiscal 24 budget, and fiscal 23 is still in progress. We began the year with a $305 million general fund balance. The county has improved its credit rating since beginning of this administration from below investment grade to A category. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 5 initiatives in this budget. Criminal Justice Complex. This budget contains funding for the transition, the move, equipment, furniture, and the staffing to move over to the new Criminal Justice Center. Also includes operational costs for the new facility, as well as cost to decommission the existing facilities. Public health is an initiative and a critical focus of this administration, with a major investment in the Well Wayne Initiative for Clean Air, birth equity, food access, as well as overdose prevention. Third, juvenile youth services. This budget contains operational facility improvement funding planned to address policy initiatives surrounding staffing, management contracts and services, and various programs for the young people. And fourth, staffing initiatives. This budget contains funding to continue to retain and attract and recruit talent to the Wayne County government. We also have an additional $5 million supplemental contribution to the pension plan. That's something the county has done since, I think, around 2017 to continue to fund the pension plan. And fifth, this budget also includes continued funding for the Oracle implementation, AKA Connect 43. We're continuing in that process. We also hired a new project director by the name of Mike Jameson. Recently came out of Detroit's implementation, which is essentially the same product that we're installing here to great success. So we're hoping to continue that process. And that's kind of the general 5 big initiatives in this budget. And I'm going to turn it over to Robert to kind of go through a little bit more detail. And we'll take questions after. Thank you.
Remember, we will not be doing questions at this time. We will have questions advanced over to Terrence from the commissioners to give you all adequate time to be able to respond to those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you for your time today. As mentioned, I'm Rob Whittigan, Wayne County Chief Deputy Financial Officer. First, I want to extend our appreciation to the commission and commission staff for their patience as we developed and submitted this budget book. We do acknowledge that this year the budget was submitted later than in past years, and we appreciate the commission and their staff's guidance as we navigated turnover and delay. So we want to apologize for any inconvenience caused by the late submission. Second, I also want to give my many thanks to the incredibly hardworking M&B team and the administration for all they've done to help us bring this budget to you. So it does a nice job of laying out the numbers, but also providing narrative to each fund and the services that are associated with them. The submitted recommended 2-year comprehensive executive budget for the fiscal years 23 to 24 and 24 to 25 in fulfillment with Article 5 of the Wayne County Charter is over 350 pages long and is quite detailed. As CFO Wallace mentioned, this marks the 9th balanced operating budget plan that CEO Evans has presented to Wayne County Commission. So I want to make a comment about the general philosophy of this budget. This budget encompasses the priorities of Wayne County by focusing our resources and investing in critical needs, such as the county's personnel, public health, infrastructure, essential services, which remain paramount, all while upholding the financial disciplines of recent years. It is incumbent on us to ensure that ongoing revenues of the county are met with meet the ongoing operations of the county. In other words, one-time revenues support one-time liabilities. Our objective is to ensure our budgetary priorities and long-term liabilities are agile enough to respond to fluctuations in both the economic cycle and resulting revenues that we will see in years to come. We did our best to contemplate and vet departmental requests for new money, asking, is this a one-time or long-term liability? Let's see, perfect, slide 4. All right, so taking a look at slide 4, our outstanding general purpose revenue sources, which amount to approximately $474.5 million from available GFGP resources, revenues for operations. The largest of this comes from taxes. Generally speaking, taxes are a relatively stable source of revenue. However, it is sort of standard thinking that monetary policy affects economic activity with long and variable lags. Given that, we must be vigilant of risks coming from rising mortgage rates, decreasing demand, commercial property use and activities, property tax limitations in Michigan, and so on. From tax year 2022 to tax year 2023, the county's aggregate taxable value, its tax base against which property taxes are levied, grew by approximately 7%. This 7% increase in taxable value represents approximately $3.4 billion. Moreover, the total estimated gross property tax revenue increased by $26.3 million from 2022 to 2023. Moving beyond taxes, I'm still on 4. Moving beyond taxes, we focus on state revenue sharing as the next largest portion. Revenue sharing is more sensitive to various economic conditions like sales tax, inflation, and legislative decisions. Overall, this comes from the state adopted budget and the Senate Fiscal Agency projections. Next, you'll see personal property tax reimbursement, which is based on historical trends and property tax increases, which saw a slight increase, but overall reflects actual revenues we've seen come in. Looking at the remaining sources of revenue, you'll see charges, fees and fines, liquor tax and income, And you'll note that that is less than 10% of our discretionary revenues. Next slide, please. Diving deeper into GFGP revenue adjustments, you'll see this is broken down by some specific categories. Under property taxes, we're seeing a 43.76 million growth over the FY23 budget. I'll note that this is primarily due to conservative budgeting in FY23, given COVID's uncertain effects to the housing market, but then has been fueled largely by a strong low inventory real estate market and pent-up post-pandemic demand. Tax tribunal refunds are decreasing from 1 million to 350,000, primarily due to high real estate values. Values are up and appeals are down. We see a slight decrease in court equity fund proceeds according to FY23 projections from the state of Michigan. And revenue sharing payments again come from state estimates and Senate Fiscal Agency projections derived from that, which resulting in about $3.4 million increase. Personal property tax, $800,000 increase to actual experience, and property tax transfer, which is the activity of homes being sold and resold, is decreasing approximately $380,000 relative to the real estate market. Lastly, we see other GFGP revenues going up approximately 1.12 million due to various economic factors. But overall, we're seeing a $47 million increase over the previous adoption. However, as noted earlier, monetary policy affects economic activity with long and variable lags. We cannot assume this revenue growth will be ongoing or reoccurring. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to pivot to projections of general fund general purpose uses. So how are we using the money? Notably, this is not a reflection of the county's budget as a whole, which totals nearly $1.9 billion, but rather the use of discretionary funds from the previous slide. The largest portions after general fund transfers and other non-departmental uses come from the Sheriff's Department, where FY23 budgeted expenses increased by 14 million or 8.5% over FY23. Beyond that, you will see prosecuting attorney, health and human services, and circuit court. It's critically important that we collectively ask ourselves and confirm that reoccurring expenses can be serviced with reoccurring revenues. That is the case in this budget. In fact, we have budgeted unrestricted surplus of $1 million, not including potential vacancy savings. As of now, we have 4,836 filled, so approximately 32% vacancy rate. You will see budget growth in this budget, but you generally will not see many new positions, particularly when the requesting department has many vacancies that already exist. So I will dive deeper, we will all dive deeper into the greater detail as we move through budget hearings to see what variances exist year over year. So I'll not go into great detail at this time. However, I would like to take the time to hit some major additions to this budget that some CFO Wallace has mentioned. This budget incorporates the reorganization changes, such as adding the Sustainability and Innovation Division to the tune of 2.5 million. HHVS sees increases to fully fund medical examiner's office, and then increases to HHVS personnel cost.
I'm just going to stop. You mentioned FTEs. What is the total FTEs?
Making a note. My notes have 4,182 budgeted FTEs.
Okay. And the vacancies?
2,836. So that's approximately 32%.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm just going to start over that. So sorry. We will all dive into greater detail as we move through the budget hearing. So I will to see what variances exist year over year. So I'm going to hit some high level points. So this budget incorporates the reorganization changes, such as Sustainability and Innovation Division to the tune of 2.5 million. HHVS sees increases to fully fund the medical examiner's office and increases for personnel costs along with administrative costs and other operational services. Beyond HHVS, we have Juvenile and Youth Services Department increases related to personnel costs, such as right sizing salaries, hiring staff, filling vacancies to meet the operating capacity at the juvenile detention facility. 12.5 million is set aside for CJC operations and to fund the transition to the new facilities. Other major items to note include sheriff budget increases to account for the Tether program transitioning to our general fund versus federal COVID funding. That's why you'll see the increase there, along with commissary impacts totaling $3 million to fund residential outplacement, phone bank charges, the Tether program, jail management system, as well as investing $1.4 million in general fund support for inmate programs, all previously supported by payphone commissions, which no longer exist. You'll see an adjustment in funding for prosecutor and corporation counsel. This budget reallocates funding and excess funding and miscellaneous contractual operating to pay for additional APAs, ACAs, and paralegals. The clerk also saw increases to fund rental and contractual and equipment needs, transitioning to 400 Monroe. And now I'd like to hit on ARPA really quick. Thanks to the quick actions by this commission, M&B was authorized to use $190.3 million in identified unobligated state and local fiscal recovery funds of the American Rescue Plan Act under revenue replacement category to reimburse the county for eligible costs for eligible government services, expenses incurred since March of 2021. This is reflected separately in the assigned fund balance and drawn from that account over multiple years to distinguish remaining community projects. You can view this on printed page 17 of your budget book. In other words, we're keeping the spirit of ARPA alive without the strict spending timelines that was set forth by the Treasury rules, and we can maintain our community projects, but on our timeline. This budget reflects actual operations, such as 18.7 to pay debt service. Funding of $10 million has been allocated to replace sheriff vehicles for various repairs and improvements and renovations to county-owned facilities. DPS is budgeting to use $33 million in fund balance for road and infrastructure projects and ongoing operations. Total appropriations for public services, engineering, equipment, and roads outlined in the CIP fund, which you'll find on page 227 of the budget book, total $69.2 million. Also included in this budget is a one-time DTRF distribution to the general fund of $20 million, and mandatory pension spend is funded, as CFO Wallace has mentioned, along with a $5 million advance contribution. Collective bargainings are ongoing negotiations is a top priority, aiming to attract and retain talent. I'm proud to say that the immediate benefit changes that have been included in this budget, totaling $2.5 million. That covers healthcare premiums, reducing to 20%, increase in annual bonus, and employee paid parking is all in this budget. Moreover, all known CBA costs, increases known to date, such as GBA 3317 and POAM, are included in this budget as well. Ending our summary of investments included in this budget is the ERP project at $20.8 million budgeted, which is on track with the original budget plan of $65.2 million for the total project. And you can see that is outlined on page 329 of your budget book. Opioid funding of 1.7 is going towards mental health funding, which that is about 29.6 million over 18 years. And county FTE count of 4,182, up from 4,040, which includes 51 position increases to JDF. So that concludes our budget presentation for the comprehensive executive budget for fiscal years FY 23 and 24. Thank you for your time today, and I look forward to future discussions and what I'm sure will be many calls with Terrence and his team. So I want to apologize and thank them in advance. I will now turn it over to John for closing statements.
Well, thank you, Robert. Yes, we're very excited about what the opportunities in this budget that's presented to you, and we look forward to working with you during the hearing process. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation today. We're looking forward to the continued, presentations as we dig deeper, as you stated, into the budget as departments make their way to the committee. And so I want to thank you, and we will continue to be in touch with you based upon questions that we receive from the committee members but also we're engaging the entire commission for any questions that they might have regarding the proposed budget. So thank you for your presentation, and we'll be seeing you at the next hearing. So we won't be taking any questions at this time, but I'll recognize you. Thank you.
No, I don't have a question for administration. Did our staff receive the comments from the deputy CFO today as he laid out?
Through the chair, no, we haven't as of yet.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to request that. There was a lot of detail in there as people look for questions for further hearings, and that we receive a copy of that, and every commissioner then receives a copy of that.
Yes, I would like to request
Chair.
your comments that you presented to the committee today. If you could get that to our staff, and staff will forward it to all commissioners.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next item on the agenda.
We need a motion and support to close the public hearing.
No, we're going to continue. From what I was understanding, we're going to just continue and pass for today, or some sort of action or
we're
something
gonna
like
call-
that.
Keep it for audit.
Or would we recess or what? Marcy's on the agenda. Yeah, so Marcy's on the agenda. So. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion. to
Oh, no,
close
no,
public-
we have to, we're going to do it for Marcy's going
Oh,
to present it at this time.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay,
So we're
Yes.
on to item 5B, discussion of legislative auditor general's budget sensitive report.
Marcy Coro, Auditor General.
Will Hamner, audit manager.
What you have before you today, this is the OAG's Budget Sensitive Issues Report, along with a review of the September 30th, 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. We will also be making the same presentation at the Committee on Audit meeting on the 26th. We'll probably take a deeper dive into some of the issues. We prepared this report for the Committee on Audit and Ways and Means to capture the budget sensitive issues which may have budgetary impact on fiscal year 2023-2024 budget hearings and beyond. The scope of this report is May 1st, 2022, September 30th, 2023. First section is general fund. This is on pages 3 and 6 of the actual report that was also sent to you. Revenues increased by $58.2 million, largely due to the higher property valuations and more user activity and public spending resulting from economic recovery from the pandemic. Two of the most significant increases in revenue, as the CFO mentioned, was the property tax revenue of $39.3 million and increases in charges for service revenue of $13.7 million. Expenditures increased by $22.5 million to the reclassification of the prosecuting office financial activity from general government to judicial, and also from operations increases in public safety. Page 3 of the report, the actual report, has a table of all the general fund revenues expenditures. And page 5 also has a fund balance summary. Fund balance increased by $44.2 million over prior year. A majority of the increase is unassigned. Unassigned fund balances include $23 million for budget stabilization, which is consistent with prior years. Total unassigned fund balance was $277 million. Impact action. Commission leadership should request administration submit an annual report analyzing the cost of delivering mandated services and proposing service fee increases as deemed necessary. And commission leadership should also continue to monitor the general funds, fund balances, amounts allocated for budget stabilization. And you can see the management and budget's full commentary on page 6 of the actual report. The next section of the report is the unassigned unrestricted fund deficits and deficit elimination plans, which is on page 6-7 of your report. Unassigned unrestricted fund deficits decreased by $17.3 million over prior year. The following funds reported a deficit at September 30th, 2022. Community Development Block Grant, Victim Witness Fund. These were just timing differences on the receipt of revenue. Chapter 8 drains, central services, environment, and buildings and grounds. These deficits were the result of the net pension obligations and OPEB liabilities recording. Impact action, continue requesting periodic updates on the progress of eliminating existing fund deficits and notification of projected or potential deficits and causing factors. Our report on page 7 has management's comments. County debt and bond ratings, page 8 of the OAG report. Bond ratings and outlook improved since last year. All 3 rating agencies cited the county's sound fiscal management and successful operation restructuring. Moody's upgraded the county to an A1 rating from an A3 with a stable outlook. S&P's rating remained the same as prior year, an A rating with a stable outlook. And Fitch's rating upgraded from a BBB+ to an A with a stable outlook. The impact action, continue monitoring of bond ratings and request administration to continue providing communications regarding rating changes. Staffing shortages, overtime, succession planning efforts. Employee headcount decreased by 90 from fiscal year ending 21 to fiscal year ending 22. However, the headcount is up by 81 as of June 30th, 2023. Through June 30th, 2023, based on a report provided by management and budget, 68% of the budget positions are filled as compared to 66% at the same time last year. Some progress is being made. Overtime costs. County overtime costs increased slightly by $1.7 million, totaling $24.9 million for fiscal year 2022. Actual overtime expenditures came in under budget by $159,000. The sheriff's office accounted for 56% of the total overtime cost. As of the end of June 2023, the sheriff's office had 400 unfilled positions. There was 426 as of June 2022. Recently reported 42 new police officers hired, but then they lost 69 fiscal year to date. On page 10 of our actual report, we have a table of all the staffing by each elected official and department. Recruiting efforts. There was a hiring blitz for JDF candidates, resulting in 10 new employees. Sample testing posted on the county website to reduce testing fail rate. Satellite testing and on-site recruitment at Wayne County Community College District downtown and northwest campuses. Reimage, the Your Career branding campaign, features static images and video commercials within 16 theaters throughout Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb County. Retention efforts. One-time COVID-19 pandemic pay stipend negotiated approved by the commission for those mandated to in-person work during the first 17 months of pandemic. CBA modifications allowing for wage increases of at least 2.5% over the next couple of years, and also your own commission benefits task force. Impact action. Hiring and recruiting challenges continue across all county departments with no improvement post-pandemic. It is widely recognized that much of the reasons for staff shortages relate to non-competitive county salaries and subpar benefits. As a result, it is suggested the commission requests the following: a detailed comprehensive compensation analysis, including pay and benefits for all positions within county, starting with the county mandated departments affected the most. A countywide what-if cost analysis of improved employee health benefit provisions. Development and implementation of a means to monitor reasons for voluntary employee departures if one is not already in place. Continued updates on the status of staffing shortages, progress in hiring initiatives, and the related impact on key county initiatives and mandated services. Continued periodic updates from personnel on implementation progress of recruiting and retention efforts. Next section is on the retirement system funding, which is on page 13 to 15 of the actual report. There's a 65% funding ratio at 9/30/2022, which is in compliance with the Michigan Public Act 202 of 2017, is consistent with the prior year. County contributions exceeded the required minimum by $5.9 million. Potential cash flow concerns. The ratio of planned assets at market value to retiree benefit payroll is 6.7. This indicates that current plan assets are available to cover approximately 7 years of retiree benefit payments. payments beyond 7 years are highly dependent on the future contributions and future investment returns. This is down from 8 in the prior year. Another noted item in retirement system funding, combined pre-2002 retiree liability. In June 2017, the county retirement system, the Wayne County Airport Authority, entered into a retroactive memorandum of understanding to memorialize the Wayne County Airport Authority's 10.25% share of retirement obligations for individuals that were employed by or retired from the airport prior to 2002. The MOU obligated the Wayne County Airport Authority to make payments totaling $22 million over a 5-year period, which ended on September 30th, 2020. After that time, the three parties were going to come together with an agreement for settling any remaining unfunded portion of the liability. As September 30th, 2020, the Airport Authority's unfunded portion of the combined pre-2002 actuarial accrued liability approximated about $6.3 million. As of this date, there's been no new agreement on how the remaining liability will be settled. The impact action for the commission is commission leadership should request management's plan to resolve the outstanding retiree obligations due, if any, from the airport for the pre-2002 airport retirees. Delinquent tax revolving fund, which is on page 15 to 17 of the OAG report. There was a $47.6 million increase in the total fund net position over the prior year. It was at $203.3 million at 9/30/22 and $155.7 million at 9/30/2021. 100% of the assets totaling $376 million are pledged as collateral for repayment of tax revenue notes. $23.5 million decrease in transfers to the county's general fund. In fiscal year 2021, transfers were $30 million. 2022, the transfer is only $6.5 million. Surplus transfers are expected to decline in future years. At the bottom of the PowerPoint presentation is a little simple analysis. As of September 30th, 2022, cash and investments was $225.8 million. Delinquent property tax receivables was $145.7 million. Total assets, $371.5 million. Less the delinquent tax notes of $149.7 million. These remaining assets of $221.8 million. Impact action. Commission should request the development of agreed upon formula for calculating surplus delinquent tax revolving funds that could be transferred to the general fund with a known surplus identified prior to preparation of the annual budget, including the annual budget and finally transferred to the general fund for said budget years. Also request the status of the liability for the FEL case. Tax reverted properties transferred to the land bank, which is on page 17 and 18 of the report. In 2017, the Wayne County Treasurer's Office and the land bank entered into intergovernmental agreement where the Wayne County Treasurer would transfer tax reverted properties to the land bank. These are the properties that were remaining that were not sold at the second auction. The land bank agrees to obtain title, demolish, maintain, manage, and market the properties in exchange for a per property amount paid by the Wayne County Treasurer to the land bank to cover the maintenance and administration of the properties. The recent IGA expires on May 1st, 2026, but it may be extended for an additional 3 years. Under the new IGA, land bank has recorded $2.8 million of receipts from the treasurer for the maintenance of these properties. Expenditures incurred against this amount total $2.1 million, leaving about $681,000 of revenue in excess of the expenditures that have not been spent. Impact action. The commission should inquire what will be the disposition of the excess maintenance funds that are transferred and not expended in the fiscal year, and the need for the Wayne County Treasurer to continue to transfer funds to the land bank at the current per property rates. Commission should also inquire if the method of transferring funds from the Wayne County Treasurer's Office to the land bank is appropriate. Moving on to the next section, the Guardian Building and First Street Parking Deck on page 19 to 20 of the action report. Guardian Building net operating income decreased from $731,000 in fiscal year 2021 to $543,000 in fiscal year 2022 due to an increase in operating expenses. Fiscal year 2022 building occupancy rates is 87.9%, down from 93.5% in fiscal year 2021. The First Street parking deck holds 1,461 spaces, of which 1,432 were in use at the end of fiscal year 2022, an increase of 226 spaces over fiscal year 21. Impact action. Commission leadership should continue to monitor significant decreases in rental revenues, occupancy rates, and spaces leased to ensure stability in post-pandemic times. And the monthly guardian building reports are currently being forwarded to the commission via Economic Development Committee. Moving on to American Rescue Plan Act funding, page 21 through 22 of the action report. In 2021, the county received $339 million in state local fiscal recovery funds. Funding is required to be obligated by December 31st, 2024 and fully expended by December 31st, 2026. $131.8 million has been allocated to various projects within the Wayne County, which would be batch 1 and batch 2. The $190 million has been allocated to the county to use as revenue replacement for lost revenues during the pandemic. The impact is the commission should monitor 1, the annual Wayne County Recovery Plan Performance Report to review the status of the amounts spent compared to the amounts allocated to the community projects in batch 1 and batch 2, and also the workforce development. 2, the status of unallocated amounts totaling $17.7 million to ensure that funds are obligated by December 31st, 2024 deadline, and usage of the $190 million allocated to the county revenue replacement. Also in the actual report, I don't have in the PowerPoint presentation because the commission does receive reports on is the Community Justice Center and the ERP. That concludes our presentation, and I would like to thank the commission for allowing us to come and provide our budget sensitive report. And as I said, we will be going through this report at the committee and audit meeting on the 26th, where we do take a deeper dive into the items.
Thank you. This was great information that you present to us. I mean, you and your team provide a great resource to not only the commission, but to the county. And I want to thank you for your presentation today. At this time, any committee members have any questions based on the information that was presented? She did say she'll be taking a deeper dive and audit as relates to this. That being said, thank you, Marcy. Thank you as well. Mr. Hamlin, thank you. Next item, okay, at this time, motion is in order to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close public hearing.
The support? Support. Okay, roll call?
Commissioner Scott?
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
All in favor, signify by
Aye.
saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The public hearing is closed. Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Item is to pass the item number 5 for the day.
Okay. Okay, at this time, a motion is in order to pass item number 5 for the day.
So moved.
Your support? Okay, please use your tablets to vote. Okay. Chair votes aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda.
Item F, such other matters as may be properly submitted before the committee.
I know of none, but I want to remind the committee members to please reach out to Terrence by the end of today to inform him of the availability of technology for the locations that you've selected for the members who recommended off-site hearing locations. Okay, and with that, next item.
Item G, public comments.
At this time, is there anyone on Zoom? Do you see any hands raised? Anyone who want to address this committee? If you want to address this committee, please raise your hand if you're on Zoom.
There are no hands on Zoom.
I'd like to ask anyone in the audience if you would like to address this committee at this time under public comment. I see none. And Madam Clerk, next item.
And no emails have been received.
No email has been received. Any emails? Okay. Okay, so next item, please.
Item H, adjournment.
Motion is in order. It's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed,